Joining me on the show right now is Brandon Lewis. He is with the Tennessee Conservative. You can read his stuff at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Let me make sure you're on the phone there. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
Man, I'm great. I've been crypto mining in my backyard for the last 6 months and I haven't found a thing. And so I'm
Yeah.
pretty upset that I need to go down to Walker County, apparently, where the crypto is it's all over the place.
Uh-huh. So we've been talking about this issue of data centers, and we'll skip down to that first, Brandon. I know we have other stuff we want to talk to, but you had a story on this because we've had some places want to do moratoriums and everything else. But I guess there are some Tennesseans living near data centers that have seen bigger jumps in electricity costs, at least in the short term. And that's what has some people concerned.
Yeah, there's a report. Tennessee residents living near data centers saw on average a 3.2 increase. But the funny thing is, the data centers actually saw their bills decrease by 0.2%. And homes that are there, obviously, they have outstripped other areas in the state. They saw a 1.6 increase between 2023 and 2024. And the average statewide increase is only 1.3. So, and they do believe that consumers of commercial services are going to outstrip proportionally residential
Mhm.
demand almost 2 to 1 over probably the next few years. So, looking at somewhere at like a 5.1% increase between 2022 and 2027. So we'll see what happens with it. I know that there's all kinds of concerns relative to power consumption. I don't know if that's going to go up as demand increases, or it's going to go down as technology improves, or some
Mhm.
combination thereof. And I think that's why so many people are pumping the brakes. And we all know that government is always behind technology. There's always a few months, few years when new technology comes out it's kind of like the Wild West, and the government doesn't know what to do. I mean, government doesn't know what to do about problems that have been around since the beginning of time. And so
Right.
it's no shock there that something new would throw them for a loop, because the old stuff doesn't seem to fare much better. So we'll see what happens to that and moving forward. But a lot of politicians are taking a more cautious, measured approach to this now that there seems to be more public sentiment and concern.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily against a cautious approach, but I'm also worried that the government's going to start getting in the way. You know what I mean? And then I don't want China to be a leader in AI. I would much prefer us be the leader.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's preventable.
Hmm.
And I think that the demand for it's going to increase. I mean, even in our
Yeah.
company, the use of it has gone up in my own personal role. Old dog learning new tricks. Like I've started out pretty simple using Chat GTP for a lot of what I do, simply to compile information, reports,
Right.
diagnostics for business owners, summarize information, graphic design, website design, things of that nature. And so I can see a data entry at our company, and so I don't see it going away. So I think a lot of folks that are conservatives tend to be a little bit, stuck behind the times relative to technology changing and the demographics that vote Republican. So I do have the same concerns you have in
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah. It's funny though. You were talking about how the government screws up things that we've been doing for a while, like, education, because we have this story where new TCAP scores show very slow progress. Students are still not meeting general proficiency standards. So talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so the percentages for most subjects in the what's called the exceeded expectations or met expectations categories were within 1 to 2% of last year's results, most of them increasing, but subjects like English slightly declining. And for example, the English language arts showed 49.9% of students approaching expectations in 2021, and that number is down to 39.5% in 2026. And that, to me, ELA is very important because so much of what learning is your ability to read, comprehend, to write, because once you can read, comprehend, and write, you can go pick up a book on almost any subject and figure it out. But if that is not in place, there's like this hazy veil over whatever you're trying to learn. It makes the uptake slower. It makes it harder for students to learn on their own without facilitation as adults. And so that really does worry me, because the spoken word is so critical, and
Yep.
the written word in business and every role that you get into. And so we'll see. And we're also seeing, that in the lower grades, we're seeing, more improvement. But as people get to high school, they're forgetting what they've learned, and we're not seeing the same gains as the education of our students progress toward what's arguably the most important years of their life, and that is when they move into the workforce.
Yeah. And what do you think that, I mean, what's the reason for that, you think? And probably a lot of reasons. We could probably talk about it for an hour, but you know,
I just think to me, being an educator by trade, it's the incentive structure. I mean,
hmm,
there's no real accountability. I mean, you basically never get fired. Everybody gets paid the same, no matter how they perform. Every school retains the funding, no matter how they perform. I mean, go complain about something you don't like at your school. Get a group of parents to go complain. See if anything changes. Nope, rarely ever. Versus private schools, when parents get together and make a big uproar, the headmaster and everybody is on notice, because you voluntarily pay tuition and you make that decision every year about whether or not you're going to continue to support the school, not only with your financial dollars today, but a large percentage of funding for most private schools comes from alumni gifts and grandparents and folks that give after their kids have long left the institution because they believe in the mission of it, which is not present in public education. So to me, it's a broken incentive structure, and I think you can make it stink less, through
hmm.
certain legislation. But when you've got the fundamentals are broken, just like in business, if the fundamentals are broken, you can mess around with tertiary issues, but getting to the heart of it is complicated. And I don't see anybody that has the political will in Tennessee to take that bull by the horns, because the largest voting bloc in the state of Tennessee by employer are government educators.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
You know, it's kind of similar to what we're dealing with in our healthcare system in this country, where, you know, we kind of trim around the edges, but it's a foundational problem. And of course, just wait until the government takes it over completely. You want to talk about a perverse incentive structure. We're going to start seeing that in our healthcare system, I think.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, they're the two sacred cows,
Yeah.
healthcare and education. If you describe the situation for a restaurant or an auto manufacturer, people are like, I don't want a government car. I don't want to go to a government restaurant. But you all of a sudden you wave the magic wand of education, and it's like, oh, okay, well, but you understand. It's like people start making all of these what I would call illogical excuses that they would never make for any other service or product as the government is involved. And so they've done a real good PR job over the years of making people pay more while getting less. And so it's hats off to them for being able to bamboozle the public for as long as they have, in my opinion.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis, he is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Another story you have here is that 63 of 95 Tennessee counties are now participating in the federal 287G immigration program, which is good news.
Yeah, I can remember when we first started talking about this, Yaffee, it was like 12,
Yeah,
9, and now we're up to 63. And, when you think about it from a deterrent standpoint, when you've got folks trying to pick a state that they're going to move into after they've illegally entered the country, I do believe that Tennessee is slowly, between all the different reforms that we're seeing, it is making it more and more inhospitable. And this is all primarily because in July 1st, the law took effect that basically by January 1, 2027, which is, less than 6 months away, the sheriff's departments have to be enrolled in it. Now, whether or not they'll take it down to police departments, which frankly is probably where the bulk of this is going on, and why
yeah.
they wouldn't have started with police departments is kind of curious to me. because that it seems like the metro areas have the biggest issues with crime and other things as it relates to legal
Probably low
immigration.
hanging fruit. Knew they could get this
Yeah,
passed, is what I'm
yeah.
guessing.
So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody doesn't bring a bill and closed circuit transmission to the legislature, because I know a lot of lawmakers listen to our program, and many of them in a closet with their headphones on, so nobody knows. Uh,
Yeah.
that would be that would be great. So hopefully somebody brings. I think that if anybody even brought that wasn't on Cameron Sexton or Randy McNally's naughty list for being conservative already. If somebody fairly moderate brought that bill, that'd be a hard one to vote against in committee. So I think
Yeah.
if that thing shows its head in the next legislative session, we may have a chance to see that
Which would be
pass.
cool, but the pushback from those law enforcement agencies is going to be pretty big. Even here in Chattanooga, I'm sure Chattanooga Police Department's already kind of
Oh yes.
pushed back against it. So
Yes, yes. Everywhere you've got a Democrat mayor running a city that has rampant crime and quality of life issues, their mantra, just like Memphis, is always, "We can take care of our own problems." I'm
yeah,
like, well,
yeah, I've
I
done a
don't
great job. Yeah,
know. I don't think history. I don't think that's holds much water. But it makes for good political rhetoric for the Democrat base. But it's not. The numbers don't bear it out.
so on the issue of illegal immigration, we have this issue where the Tennessee Department of Health has agreed not to report illegal immigrants. Now, this is during a legal challenge to the new law. There was kind of an uproar because they were worried about illegal immigrant children being reported with this healthcare program. What do you think about it?
Well, every time there's any type of reform bill that liberals don't like, they're going to bring. I mean, there were challenges to the thing that we just got through talking about. There's been
Yeah,
challenges to almost every single law, and of course, it's got to make its way through Chancery Court and Appeals Court and whatever jurisdiction in Tennessee that it's got to make it through. And so, for right now, as that is going on, there's a restraining order, and essentially, what it's trying to prevent are people getting taxpayer services that are here illegally at our expense. And for two reasons. A, we fundamentally, I don't think you should have to pay for it. I don't, I mean, people would be very angry if all of a sudden we were stroking checks out of our general account to people getting health care in Russia or wherever else. But if they're from Mexico or wherever else and they've come here to get the free health care, it's no different than if we were paying for health care in another country for people that didn't live here, in my opinion. And so the injunctions in there, and they're just disregarding requests to enroll families. They did send out letters, however, on July 1st to families saying you're going to have to prove your citizenship, which likely probably saved us some money. Just the letters going out before this injunction came in would be my guess. And so they're right now they're looking from what little data they have been able to gather, even before the enrollment was fully shown, that about 9% of the taxpayer funded resources were going to illegals, and that's before we've got all the data. And so
wow.
I assume once they start collecting the data, we'll see those numbers go up to probably somewhere around 25 or 30%. And we hear reports, you know, everybody always dismisses these anecdotal reports, but people go to the emergency room, not in every county and not in every part of Tennessee. They go to an emergency room and they can kind of look around the emergency room and tell that folks are using this as primary care.
Yeah,
And somebody's there with a heart issue and you've got 30% of the people in the room who are not here legally, and they're standing in a queue. And we've all heard about people that go to the emergency room, go to care facilities, and die or have complications because of simply the weight and the strain on the resources. So this is not just a financial issue. This is a saving
yeah.
lives, improving healthcare person by person in Tennessee issue. So hopefully we get closer to that if it goes through, which I assume it will.
Brandon Lewis is with the Tennessee Conservative. You can read this story and more at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, I appreciate it as always, my friend, and we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right, take care, Yaffee. We'll see you, buddy.